everybody. My name is Emmy, and welcome back to Chats with the Freak. I have Sharone on the line with me today. She released her long-anticipated album, Reflection. How are you doing today, doll?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. It's a little snowy where I'm at right now, but you're from Colorado, so I'm sure you're used to the snow. I am not.
Oh, I know all about the snow.
I
We
am
just had
not
a couple
about
pretty big snowstorms down here.
Yeah, we're getting hammered right now, and I am not about this snow life. I don't like it. I want to go to California where it's sunny. I don't want to deal with this.
I feel that. Just, all I want to do when it's snowing out is I just want to be in my bed in my pajamas drinking hot tea.
Yeah, like if I don't have to be anywhere, I guess it doesn't really bother me that much. But like when I have to like go to work and stuff like that, it's like, no, it doesn't need to be snowy right now. It's just killing my vibe.
Right.
So you just released your new album Reflection, which I checked out, and I dug it. It had a little bit of a darker edge to it than I kind of was expecting looking at the artwork, which after listening to it and then re-looking at the artwork, I was like, wait, I should have seen that coming for sure. But what can you tell me about the album?
This album was very much true to its name as far as the meaning behind it. It's about self-reflection and growing as an individual, recognizing the flaws in yourself and, working on them and just growing as a human being. Instrumentally, musically, this album is a huge accomplishment of mine. It's everything that I've wanted my music to be for the last 3 or 4 years, and it's finally come into fruition on this record, which I'm very, very excited about, and it's really cool to finally have it out for everyone to be able to listen to.
Yeah, I dug it a lot. It gave me, I'm kind of, like, I asked this question more than I like to ask this question, but while I was listening to it, I don't know why, but you gave me kind of like a dark Cher vibe, and I mean that in a very good way. I mean that in a compliment way. So I'm kind of curious on what your inspirations were kind of going into this record.
Sure. I've gotten compared to Cher once or twice before just because of, the depth of my voice, and she has a very deep voice as well. So I don't think of it as a negative thing at all. I adore Cher. As far as inspiration for this album goes, I've been my favorite band since I first discovered rock music when I was 11 or 12 years old, has been Evanescence. And I've always really looked up to their singer Amy Lee, who also does the majority of their composition and, all the piano and strings and everything. And I've always admired how she has been able to fit all of those really melodic, beautiful instruments and melodies into an area of very, heavy rock with all of the rhythmic guitars and things like that. And that's really what I've been going for since I started playing, with a full band about 4 years ago. And on this album, that original vision has finally come through, I think. And I think that this is finally, I have found the sound that I've really been going for over the last few years, and it's finally starting to become what I've wanted it to be all along. And I really looked for, inspiration through Evanescence's music as well as bands that I've really looked up to in that, hard rock realm, like In This Moment and Hailstorm and even Lacuna Coil, bands like that who really do a very good job of having that really emotional and, melodically beautiful component with a, hard rock metal undertone. And I think that this, on reflection, I think that came across more so than it did on my previous album, Enchiridion of Nightmares. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I saw you had, like, listening to the record, I definitely felt like you had a vision with it, and I love, like you were saying, like, the melodic tones kind of into what you were doing. I dig it a lot. I felt like the record was very cohesive, and it flowed very well, and it was one of those records that I felt like I could sit down and listen to from beginning to end, which I did, and not, like, sometimes if I listen to a record from beginning to end, I have a tendency to get bored just because I am very anxious and very just everywhere. But, like, this record is one of those ones I could put on and just listen all the way through, and I did not get bored with it. So I definitely dug it a lot. It was really cool.
Well, I'm very happy to hear that. Thank you.
So, there's 10 tracks on the record. What would you say is your favorite track off of it?
I've been asked this question multiple times now, and I feel like with every time I am asked this question, my answer changes a little bit. My ultimate favorite song on this album from before I even started recording it has been Closer to Love. And the reason why is it's the first happy song that I've put out since I put out my first ever, like, demo EP when I was, like, 16 or 17 years old. Since I've been playing rock music, this Closer to Love has been the first happy song that I've put out and the first real, like, love song that I've put out. But it's not a happy love song in the sense that it's, like, really cheesy and, mushy and gives you that, like, fantasy of love, but it's very real and honest and gives you that, like, the whole, we have our things to work on, and there's been a lot of hectic stuff going on, and we're trying, and it's not always great, but when it's good, it's really good. And that's what that song is about. It's finding that light from the darkness. We went through all of this and found each other, and it has that really, like, real, honest kind of message behind it. And instrumentally, I think this is my most proud composition, because of the flow of the whole song and the way that it changes in different parts. There's a really epic breakdown later on in the song. The guitar lead in the chorus is super fun and dancey. And the song is very different from a lot of other stuff that I've done and the majority of things that I've done. And I didn't think that I would be so proud of a happy song as I am with Closer to Love. I think that out of all of the tracks on the album, that one is my favorite. But I think a good runner-up would either be, I think, Final Reflection or even Filling the Void. I like how Filling the Void is very rhythmic and heavy, but also very melodic and emotional. And Final Reflection is just a really great summary of the entire album, and it's very different structurally from any song I've written in my life. So I think that all those different components, it's really hard to pick a one favorite, If I had to, it would be Closer to Love, but I think those three songs are really the ones that stick out to me on the album.
Oh, for sure. I feel like that's why I hate asking that question, because, like, I feel like that's asking you what your favorite child is. It's
exactly.
It's not really fair. But I kind of, after hearing you talk about filling the void a little bit, and you were talking about it in this moment a little bit earlier, I can kind of hear a little bit of the inspiration in that. So that's kind of cool. Like, you were talking, I was like, I can hear that a little bit. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, what, obviously, like, when you're, like, growing up and you're, like, trying to figure out what you're going to do, there's always something that makes you want to pursue whatever that is that you're pursuing. So what made you want to pursue music?
I honestly I never had, I know a lot of musicians had, like, this almost, like, aha moment when they were a kid of, I just want to do music, And I never really had that one moment that sticks out to me in my head of that was when I knew that I wanted to do music, I started taking classical piano lessons when I was 6 or 7 years old, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with playing, and after a few months or about a year of, taking lessons and playing classical music, I started experimenting with my own stuff and started writing my own music. And, I wrote my first complete song when I was 8 years old, and it was horrible. It was awful. But, at the time, I was a kid and I really enjoyed it and I felt really proud of myself for, writing my own song, and I just kept doing it. And after a few years, I kind of turned away from, doing classical and taking lessons, and I just kind of started going my own route and writing my own music and covering music of bands and artists that I really loved. And it just kind of kept building from there. I started writing a lot of music. It was one of those, like, every week I wrote a new song. And when I was 14 or 15 years old, I played my first show, and a little bit over a year later, I put together a backing band and have been just doing it super hardcore ever since.
That's awesome. Yeah, I do find with some musicians, like, some of them have that, like, oh, like, I talked to somebody, I don't remember who it was, a couple weeks ago, and they were like, oh man, I saw the Goo Goo Dolls, and I was like, man, this is what I need to do. And, like, I feel like some people have that, and then some people just pick up the instrument, and it's just like, this is what I should be doing, and it just feels right.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely got inspiration to, start a rock band and to start performing live from watching live videos of bands like Hailstorm and Evanescence when I was growing up. But it wasn't watching those videos that made me know that I wanted to do music. I had already known that at that point. And
for sure.
they just, just watching those bands gave me the inspiration to start a band and to start, doing rock music and go down that road a little bit more.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you mentioned Hailstorm a couple times, and I have to admit, until this year, I was a very casual Hailstorm fan, and I am very ashamed of that fact, because after I saw them, they opened up for Alice Cooper on his last tour over the summer, and I was absolutely just blown away by Lizzie Hale. Like, I am so disappointed in myself for sleeping on that band so much.
She's very, very talented. Obviously, guitar is her main instrument in that band. That's what she performs with live and everything for the most part. But she's also a very talented piano player. She's just all around as a musician. She's super, super talented. And she has just raw talent and energy on stage. A lot of bands at that level, they have a lot of backing tracks going on. And I'm sure, they still use a little bit, but everything that you're seeing, I feel, when Hailstorm is performing live is just raw and real, and she's such a talented musician and singer and performer, and all around, that band is really one to look up to, I think.
Oh, for sure. And, like, I even checked out, like, their latest album a little bit, and I listened to it, like, from beginning to end, and I was like, oh my God, like, why did I sleep on this band so much? It's definitely, it shows, I think, a lot more on the last album.
Right.
So we're getting to the end of 2019, going into 2020. What do you feel like 2020 holds for you?
I am currently booking a tour for the spring, and as far as touring goes in cities and whatnot, I'm currently looking at doing a run through Texas and go into New Orleans a little bit, do that little, southern mid-United States area. And later on in the year, definitely, I've already, started writing some new songs and want to start hopefully performing those live in the coming months, and maybe even putting out some more new music next year. Who knows?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I definitely appreciate you taking time to talk with me today and coming on my podcast. And I hope everyone goes and checks out Sharone's new album, Reflection. It's really awesome. And thank you again for taking the time to talk with me today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening in on another episode of Chats with the Freak. I hope to catch you next Freaky Friday.